Welcome, I'm Coach Woodbray, and this is My House Throws. Welcome, My House Throwers. I'm Coach Woodbray. In today's video, we're going to talk about the mechanics of the power throw for the discus. The power throw is the main position that you're going to be using in every drill that's going to help you launch that discus out into the sector. And so we want to be able to perfect it and to understand different aspects of it. So let's go ahead and talk about the very first thing that we do is we've got to find a good position before we get into certain drills. You're going to want to go to the front of the rim, and you're going to want to be about shoulder width apart. You're going to find a really good comfortable spot to position yourself so that when you're throwing that you can get the most amount of power in a relaxed position. You're going to be on the balls of your feet. You're going to rotate them towards your delivery side, and your heel ought to go near your toe of your block side. Now, some people prefer a little bit tighter stance, and so you may have a heel toe or the middle of the foot toe relationship. It's up to you to finding out what is more comfortable. The thing that you don't want to do is to be like on a balance beam. When you're throwing, if you're on a balance beam, meaning that as soon as I turn those toes towards the sector, I can't get my hips all the way around. So the thing that I want to make sure of where my foot placement is that I can open my hips to the sector and my body is not preventing my power going out into that sector. I don't have to fight my own body. Now that you know where you want your foot placement, we're going to get into the one position. The one position is you're going to be on the balls of your feet, you're going to rotate towards your delivery side, and your feet are going to face towards 430. Your hips are going to be facing to the back of the ring at 6 o'clock along with your blocking arm. And this is going to be the beginning of stretch reflex. We want to make sure that they keep separated. Now, your shoulder is going to be back at 730. We're going to call this setting the discus. As you begin to partially wind, you're going to bring that arm up to the point in which you want to deliver at the very end. So if you're going to be throwing at 38 degrees, you want to get that arm up there. It's called set the shoulder. Now we want to make sure that your chest is also up. It ought to be right above your toe, and most of your weight is shifted to that back leg. And so we are now in a good athletic stance. You should be able to feel maybe a burn on the back part of your leg. Some things that you don't want to do is you don't want to hunch over or bend over because it's going to throw off your throw at the very end as you start to throw out into the sector. The other thing that you don't want to do when you bring that shoulder at its setting point, you don't want to overwind, or else it's going to shift your body in such a way that you'll throw out of the sector or you'll throw your body forward, that your hips still stay at 6 o'clock, and you just get a nice comfortable spot where you can start your orbit with that arm back there, but don't over rotate. You will use position one only in drills and not necessarily the power throw itself. That will be position number two. So from number one, what you're going to do, you're going to keep a relaxed upper body. Everything's going to be lower body movement from number one to number two. You're going to drive that heel of your delivery side out, and now it's going to go to 3 o'clock. Everything follows along with it. My hip and my blocking arm are going to be at 4:30, and now my shoulder should be at 6 o'clock. Once again, want to make sure we keep all of that weight on that back leg. We want to make sure that you stay back so that we have the power that's going to be needed to have a powerful throw or a good throw. Position number three is going to be activating your ankles very aggressively. Once again, your upper body still hasn't done anything. It's going to be nice and relaxed. And your delivery heel is going to flare out. The knee of the delivery leg is going to drive to the ground. Now, that may seem a little bit contradictory to what you want at the very end, but with number four, you're going to see how that's going to help drive your discus out into the sector. And there's some other things that are going to happen there. Your block side heel You're going to have a high heel and you're going to drive it down into the ground so that we get a block. Now you should feel pressure on the inside of your foot. Don't over rotate it so that you can feel pressure on the outside of your foot. So number 3 is going to be the beginning of our block, and it's going to stop so that we can get torque in the rest of our body. Number 4, you are going to take your delivery side and you are going to tighten up some muscles there. You're going to drive your foot into the ground. You're going to tighten or flex your leg so that it begins to straighten. And you'll notice as you start to flex that side of your body and even the block side, that knee that was driving down is now driving into the sector. Also, you'll want to squeeze your glutes so that we get a good little strong burst of power, and that's going to push my hip automatically up, and that's where I'm going to get some lift out of my discus. Your block side is going to be driving back. So my block knee ought to straighten and drive that hip back. So my hips have just switched places. My block hip is further back than my delivery hip. And I should be able to feel now some torque into that position. Don't try to create lift by throwing higher. Proper body placement is going to help that lift. For example, as you start to turn on number 3, your body will be right above your leg, and you will have an angle in which it will be pointing towards 38 degrees. And as you drive your block side back and you squeeze your delivery side, you will have the correct angle and lift that you're going to need for a successful throw. Number 5, your block arm is going to abruptly pull back, and now your arm is going to be between 45 and 90 degrees, and it's going to stop in front of your rib cage. Now, we don't want it to be lower than that, or else you're going to start tucking, and sometimes you tuck a little too early and we're going to lose the power that we need to create torque on the delivery side. Now we practice pulling it high because usually when we get into real throw, we'll usually do less than is optimal. Don't have your blocking elbow go back too far. If it does, it'll throw off effect for the stretch reflex. You also will not have the momentum that will go into that linear motion to go out into the sector. The other reason that we're going to stop in front of the rib cage, if you continue to rotate that upper body, then you will not be able to create some power. For example, boxers are going to use this same method. As they go to punch someone, as they have their punching or their throwing arm go towards their opponent, their opposite shoulder will not go back. It stays for stability and strength, facing forward just a little bit, and we're creating and doing the exact same thing as a boxer does to create power. Now, our delivery hip is going to drive past our blocking hip. It's also going to be higher because we're driving into the ground on our delivery side, creating the lift. You'll notice that you now have what a lot of people call the C position. Now, the C position is created. You don't force the C position, it's a result of good technique. Notice that it's not a true C. Throwing, you'll be perpendicular to the sector. If you force the C position, you'll put all of your energy into throwing your body backwards or your chest up, and a bad posture or bad position will be created and you'll lose the power. You'll want to make sure that when you release that both of your feet are on the ground. Your feet are the generator of power. If we think of them as electrical cords, if I'm throwing off the ground, I have no power left. I've unplugged myself from the power source, which is the ground. All these things are what I call the 1 through 5. You can practice them in many different ways. As you get into position number 1, you can go through mentally and say 1, then 2, then 1, then 3, then 1, then 4, then 2, then 5, then 1. We want to be able to create flow in our throw, and so that you're not mechanically doing each of those, we want it to be one drill. And so we practice 1 through 5 to help understand what the power throw ought to be. Once again, this is just a drill. When you actually throw, I'd be very careful at going 1 through 5. I usually have my athletes start at 2 with their hip already in position. Many young throwers starting at number 1, they'll forget to get their hip underneath them to be able to get the power that they're going to need. So at first, I'd practice doing a full power throw, having my body in position number 2. Then, when I get more comfortable and I know that my body knows to get the hips underneath me and to stay back, I will go to number 1. Now that you got the basics of the power throw, you're going to be able to work on that, practice it over and over, get used to throwing there, and you're going to see some wonderful things happen. Don't get tired of doing this drill. As good as you are or not as good as you are, this drill is going to be key in having a powerful throw. Practice it, and remember, all that work you're putting into it is to build my house.